Hi. I figured I'd start by saying this is my first ever real Gibson. Um, Before we go too far, we'll show you what our other Gibson is. See, it's for real. It's it's for real. This is like I believe a late '80s to '90s, maybe early 2000s, but I'm pretty sure it's in the '90s Epiphone. Um, I'd have to double check. I think it's a PR 100A. Um, but 12 string dreadnought acoustic. It's very nice, but Gibson truss rod adjusted, truss rod cover, sorry, is the only thing Gibson I own until recently. For all my years playing guitar, so we've been playing for about 14 years now. And I've been, my first experience with a genuine Les Paul, the first one I've gotten to play, was about 2 years into me playing. My first ever guitar was a Squire Bullet, very much like this red Starcaster here. A very entry level guitar, but my Bullet was really nice for what it was, especially for what it was. $100 guitar played like $400. But I could never get a hold of a real Gibson anything. Epiphone products were bountiful, so Epiphone Les Pauls, they existed. They were great. So I was about 12 years old when I started, so this would be 2010. I didn't really start looking at other guitars until 2012. That's when the guitar bug got actually serious. I started having more than just one or two. Started hunting decent guitars as my skills improved from a dude who can hold one and pinch a few strings to okay, this kid can now play chords to a large variety of pop songs, rock songs, blues, and country songs. A decent catalog of the rhythm expertise. But later on, we'd get better and better and better until recently. Recently, I've kind of passed the hurdle of intermediate, where I had been trapped for many years, just trying to get better at this aspect, and this aspect, this aspect, until we've kind of polished up almost all of those to the point where I'm competent at any song I can hear. I used to be able to play rhythm to any song I can hear. Well, now I can do more than that. And that is a level that I am satisfied with. Could I be better? Yeah, for sure. Cripes, I went to music school with freaking guitar gods. But I only got to be there for one semester before they went belly up. So my guitar path kind of took a dive there. But anyhow, we'd gotten bettered, and I thought it was time to treat myself to something nice. Well, we jump back to around 2014. I went to a local music shop, and they had a fake gold top P-90 Les Paul. It was, my guess is it was made in very South Korean, maybe Japan. Unlikely to be Chinese, but it could have been. I didn't know too much about it, and me being only, I think, 15 or 16 at the time, I wouldn't really know what to look for beyond that as to where it came from, how real or not it is, and then what its overall quality was. But what I could tell for sure was it played great. It looked great. And it sounded great. It was everything I wanted other than it saying Gibson, absolutely perfect on the headstock, but on the back it was badged as a fake. It did not even have a Gibson serial number stamped into the back of it because it was fakety fake. However, it was extremely convincing. It was really nice. But I loved it out of the gate. I couldn't afford it at the time. The person wanted I think $260 for it. It was really nice, but I did not have that kind of money. So I start saving up. That guitar shop closed, moved. That guitar vanished. And in the meantime, I don't know if Gibson was offering gold top P-90s, but if they were outside my budget, and if they weren't, then the next closest thing was outside my budget. So either way, at the time, these were going to be like a $1,500 purchase, and that just was not going to fly for a 16-year-old who needed to save up for college someday, get some reliable transportation someday, so he can have an actual paying job instead of just oddball gigs, some of them playing out, some of them just doing labor. So we had to save up. We keep saving up. We keep saving up. And along the way, we do acquire one of our dream guitars. 2010 to, I think, 2014, maybe 15. Fender Black Top Stratocaster. So, made in Mexico. 2 Alcano 5 humbucker pickups on a 5-way switch. That's what makes it so special. They call it Black Top for these black face Fender knobs that they put on the tone and volume controls. But this was a guitar I loved as soon as I saw one it was just inside the front doors at a Guitar Center. I saw it. I thought, oh, I need that in my life. And then I got to play one. I said, I will have one. Not that I want one. I need one. I will not live without one of these. Fast forward a few years, we are in the college. We had saved up a little bit of money for some hard work during my first semester. I bought it. I broke down and I bought one. It was only a few years old at the time, one owner. It took a little bit of love making it real pretty, but we did. And it's really nice. At that point in time, that was the most expensive guitar I owned. Up until then, everything else I've gotten have been $200, $250 specials, like this T60 that I have later replaced the neck on. So luthier had botched the fret job on it. So I got the neck sitting around right now until I can get the tools to refret the original. But in the meantime, this one's stainless steel frets. All leveled, polished, crown, good to go. It freaking rocks. And then like our $200 Line 6 Variax, that was nice. And then I got engaged, and the lovely lady I got engaged with at the time, right around that point, I had ordered this guitar. I'd gone a little crazy on my budget, spent $900 on this James Tyler Variax JTV 69. So this is the kind of evolution of the Variax. And at this point in time, they had just started making the Variax Standard, and now the whole Variax line is defunct, gone forever. But I have the first gen. I have what I guess we can call the second gen. I'm not going to get any others. I love these. But after I got to try this one out, I was hunting around for the JTV 59, which is the Les Paul body shape with dual humbuckers. However, there was a 59P. That P gets you the P-90 pickups, and they would usually be gold tops, which I love and adore. You mind, ever since 2012, I've been dying to have a gold top. Fast forward to this year, 2026. We're on the verge of my birthday. I I go to a guitar store with my wife, which I had been doing with my father and other relatives and friends pretty much every birthday from when I was like 11 or 12, all the way until now. I went into one and said, you know what? We do have enough money for me to get one. And I actually play good now, like pretty good. I could brag, but I'm not that type of person. So I'm happy with where I want to be. I am comfortable splurging onto a decent quality instrument. Just like how you get good enough on a motorcycle, you buy a nicer one. Now was my time to upgrade. Well, and I say upgrade, in some ways it's not moving forward. Some ways it's just staying the same. We'll get into that. But yeah, it was time that I treat myself to something a little bit prestigious. So I start, I get a gold top in my hand. And then I also get to try a Joe Bonamassa signature in my hand. I love both of those. And then I play a Warren Haynes signature model. And that one was my freaking favorite. I love the sound of that. I think even a little bit more than this one. But I absolutely loved it. However, I did not care for the red finish on the top. It's not quite my bag. It's like a transparent red, like the old ES335s were when you get those in the red finish. And then with that one, the pickups are special. Underneath each of these P-90s, whereas these, it's one coil wrapped around all those lugs. On the Warren Haynes, instead of having one coil kind of pointing up, you have two pointed sideways. So instead of having one, we turn it sideways, and we add a second one that's sideways under each of these. So they are hum canceling. But now I gotta say, I don't really have any hum with these. But I haven't gone out played anywhere. I could certainly see that changing that outcome. But the other thing was there were some active electronics on the inside. Simply all it did was there was a mini toggle switch between the two tone controls, and you flip that little toggle, you do get a clean boost out of your guitar. It boosts by like 4 or 6 decibels, I think, maybe 12 decibels. It's a small boost, and it being on versus it being off is like going from a single coil to a humbucker. It's obvious, but it's not ridiculous. So I absolutely loved that feature, and that might be something we do with this if I can find myself a set of Warren Haynes pickups. But in the meantime, I absolutely love this. So anywho, that confirmed all my theories that, yeah, I want a gold top. I want it bad. So I hop around online, looking around. Yes, they sell them, so I could get one brand new. There were used ones on the shelves around the $2,300 mark. I thought, well, crap. You know what? For $200 more, I'll get it brand new, and then I'll have the warranty in my name. Plus, I'll be sure that I'm getting a matching case to go with it, which is at what, $120 value, maybe even more. I'm not too caught up with what the black ones versus the brown ones versus the special ones go for. I don't know. So there's that aspect of it on a monetary point of view. So I'm looking around online, and I check out a review just to make sure that all the specs are kind of what I'm hoping for. Making sure that the one that I tried in the store is going to be feel-wise of, say, the neck, exactly what I will be ordering. And it was. But in one of the videos, to my surprise, they offer this green P-90 standard. And that was hook, line, sinker for me. I wanted a gold top so bad for over a decade, never been able to own one. And then I pull up a YouTube video and he's the Guitar Trilogy, I believe that's the fella. I've seen a few of his videos. I just don't catch him frequently enough. Too much other non-guitar stuff in my feed. And he's got one of these. And I said, I need to have it. So I look around all over the internet. The only way you can get one is ordering from Gibson Direct, or if you buy it from the Gibson Garage storefront, so a physical storefront over in Nashville, Tennessee. I live in Wisconsin, so that second option was not going to happen. However, I stuck it out. I looked around on the Gibson website. There it is. Out of stock, on back order. Insert your email info for notification when they return. Okay, I did that. A week later, on a Sunday, I pop open my email. I see it's back in stock. Oh, okay, I'll check that out. Click, ship. So I pop open the link, and yeah, no, they're back out of stock. However many were available at that time had sold. So, well, crap. Well, I'll put my name in the hat again, and then I'll do that again just to double check. So fast forward 3 more weeks. 3 weeks later, as I check like 4 times a day, sometimes 6. 4 to 6 times a day, I'm checking my email and the website just in case I don't get the email to see if these are coming back in stock. No. But after 4 weeks, I finally see these pop back in stock, and I see an email that matches. So I throw it in my cart, and I'm having issues checking out. I'm assuming that they only had finished like 2 or 3 of these suckers, and there's probably 5 people on the internet trying to check it out. So I call up my wife, and she's already known about my whole plan with this thing. So she hops on her phone too, and we're both kind of working away at the website, getting it to cooperate, and her sale goes through. So, boom, here it comes. It's going to be here. That is so freaking cool. And then there were a lot of issues along the way with FedEx. But luckily it arrived absolutely safe and sound. A little delayed, a lot of drama, but safe and sound. And it is spectacular. This is my first ever real Gibson. This is my first ever short scale length for a guitar, at least. You've seen my collection. They're all the 25.5 inch scale length up until this point. And my first nitrocellulose finish. I've dealt with a few of these in the past, but never long. Like I've done setups and minor repairs on other people's Gibsons, and like really old Fenders, like a 60s Fender bass, and I think somebody's 60s Mustang or Duosonic, one of the two. So I got a little bit of experience tending to them, but not long-term ownership. I've never owned one. There hasn't been one in my name. So this has all been very fascinating to me, and it's outside of, I don't want to say my comfort zone, but it's outside of what I'm used to. That's for sure. I don't do a lot of Les Paul action. They weren't very extravagant to me. No matter of fact, I don't really care for any of them unless you have a gold top with P-90s or you have this green one. There's a lot of pretty ones out there, but they just don't speak to me. That was the whole issue I had with Stratocasters. I love a red one. I want it. I have to have it. It has to be in the collection. But when I ran across the blue one, Sonic Blue, shiny nickel covered humbuckers and black knobs and a maple neck, it's like that's my soulmate. That will live with me forever. And then we were finally able to afford this one that could live with me forever as well. So, to this day, this was a $2,700 purchase. Wowee! Never dreamed of spending that much on any kind of guitar. And now I'm a big Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl fan. It's been my mission to get a DG 335, but the problem is the Epiphones. I've gotten to try a few. I've played 3 now. The neck feels a little funky to me. It's a little thicker than I care for. The elliptical shape just isn't quite for me. I got big hands, if that matters at all. I haven't really sat down or cared to figure out why the neck isn't perfect for me, but it's just not. And then also the Epiphone ones, they come in the wrong color. So, for cripes, $1,200 and it comes in not the color I want. No, can't justify that purchase at all. This one I want, and I'm capable of enjoying it to the max. I'm going to get it, and that justifies the purchase. Me having to compromise on how a guitar looks, that does not justify any kind of purchase. Okay, unless it's ridiculously cheap. If we're talking like a $300 Squire, and I absolutely love it, but the neck is rosewood instead of maple, I'll just buy it and change it. With kind of any of these set neck Gibsons, it's like a once and done kind of deal. If you're going to do any kind of modifications, you got to be real freaking serious. Because of how labor intensive it is to do these things, but then also how much it costs to begin with versus how much less it will be worth when you're done. There's a lot of financial investment with it as well. So crap, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, so I'd have to spend like $3,000 on the Gibson DG335, and knowing that the pickups are the same as in the Epiphone, I wasn't happy with those burst buckers. I don't remember if it's a 3 and a 5 or if it's a 2 and a 3 on the Epiphone and the real Gibson Dave Grohl, but I wasn't satisfied with it on the Epiphone, so I know I wouldn't be on the Gibson. And that's like, geez, $3,000. And I'd have to hunt and peck for this guitar. They no longer make it. I'd have to find one used somewhere, pay a fortune for it, hope there's no flaws with it. And then I still have to baby over the thing because it's even more expensive than this brand new monstrosity. So that wasn't quite panning out either. So I got a kit. I have a lot of woodworking skills. I've been making it really freaking nice. Primed it. Painted it blue. And now I just have to touch up a couple blue spots. When I was scraping the binding clean, I had a little bit of blue chip off beside it. It got a little tiny bit careless with the knife. Scraping binding is pretty difficult unless you got a dedicated jig for it. I don't deal with too many bound guitars. In my collection, you can see 1, a 2, a 3. So I don't have too much experience doing that. So a little bit of touch up and then paint it, and then it's ready to go. So that's what I did with that. But with this guy, it's kind of the only avenue to get it. And I should say that, I don't think Gibson ever made a P-90 in metallic green until now. And even their P-90 gold tops. If I were to buy one in 2014, here comes the other problem. From 2014 for sure, it might even date back to 2012, but from 14 to 18, everything in there, not every, but almost every Gibson model was prone to having some sort of ridiculous quality or construction issue. It was loads of stuff. Now, I know I'm probably pissing off a lot of diehard Gibson folks out there. I'm sorry, but you gotta admit, you can't just forget that it didn't happen. But that was the era when there were countless YouTube videos everywhere of guitar centers throwing all sorts of Gibsons into the dumpsters just because they had bad frets, they had twists or curves or bumps in the neck, they had headstock breakages before they even arrived. They had plastics pop breaking off the tuners. They had pickups failing. They had solder failures in the wiring. They had body delaminations and binding delaminations. They had finish issues. I could go on forever. Getting a brand new Gibson sight unseen from 2014 to 2018 was one of the most risky things you could do with, let's say, $1,400 to $2,000. It's rough, or I should say, it was rough. But when I got to try a couple in some of these nice guitar stores since COVID had started, you can tell there's been a big turnaround. Even in their YouTube videos, they spend a lot of time now actually documenting some of their older guitars and spending a lot of time with people who had been collecting vintage Gibsons. So whoever is running the company now versus then, one knows what they're doing, and two loves what they're doing, and it shows. These are fabulous instruments now. And that's just something crazy. I'm sure a lot of you older folks are shaking your head no at me. Some of you younger guitar players are probably asking why. The thing is, honestly, for 2014 to 2018, you would have a hard time finding a Gibson worth paying for. And because of that, in that era, the Epiphones were on the rise. They were getting really good, like they still are today. But at the time, they had just gotten to that really good level, and it was stupid to pay $1,400 sight unseen for a real Gibson when you can have a less risky purchase with a, say, $400 to $800 Epiphone that could potentially even have the same hardware, the same pickups, the same knobs and same electronics. All that could be the exact same, but you're not risking the rest of it being a dud. Your Epiphone fretboard will be really nice. All your fret works will be really nice. Your fit and finish of everything else will be really nice. It really did make it hard justify buying a genuine Gibson from that era, instead of just getting the old tried and true Epiphone that everybody had. And if it wasn't for that downturn that they made shortly after 2012, we'll call it the Robot Tuner and Firebird X era. Those were kind of the staples of the not great parts about Gibson. It wasn't purely their designs and their constructions so much as it was how they handled the quality control of all of their items in those ways, and then some of their corporate decisions made behind some specific items, like the Firebird X and some of the Robot Tuner stuff. Some of the corporate decisions regarding warranty work, replacing units that had showed up to dealers who you order to throw out and destroy, because it turns out there's people digging in the dumpster trying to pull nice USA pickups off of these, or pulling them out of the dumpster completely, fixing broken necks, and away they go. They fix them, they sell them for thousands, while you eat every single penny you would put into that. That's big problem on a corporate level. But all that stuff has been behind them for some years now, almost a decade, which is good. It's allowed them to really focus on making the best stuff they can, and that's the best compliment anyone could ever give any guitar company is just continuing to make the best stuff you can and make sure you can get it into people's hands. But anyways, it's 2026 now. I got this nice new, I keep wanting to say Epiphone, but it's a real freaking Gibson. I couldn't believe I would ever own one of these suckers. What's it like? Well, this model in particular, how they call it is the Gibson the Gibson 50s Les Paul P-90 in British Racing Green. And it's a limited edition, so these green ones, they're, well, like I told you earlier, they're very hard to get your hands on. We don't know how many they're going to make. They could snap their fingers at any point and say, you know what, we're not making any more, and that's why I was in a mad dash to get this. I've always wanted a gold top, and I can continue waiting for a gold top, but I was ready to have one now, mentally, emotionally, and financially. So I thought, you know what, let's bite the bullet. And I love this green one. Let's get a green one. So I did. So let's get this guy in our lap here where you can kind of see it better, at least all the way around. I know you've seen plenty of the green top, but that's the bulk of what makes this guy special. Now, my only complaint about the color is when it's in your lap, this is what you see. You can see just tiniest bit of green on the camera here, right over there. Oh, but that's just reflecting a green toad I have over there. Then forget that. Because from my point of view, this guitar is absolutely black. Over here, it's kind of like a dark brown. It's basically black until you roll it over. And even in poor lighting, it barely looks green. But once you get actual light on it, it freaking explodes. But like I said, the sad part is you just can't enjoy the green from where you're playing. Unlike all my other guitars, they look just as good in your lap as they do on the wall. But that's not the end of the story. On the back, it's all a dark brown walnut color stain, and it is really nice. So with the back being a dark brown walnut and the top being a dark metallic green, it screams British. And I like that a lot. I have not seen a Les Paul like this up until now, and I love it. The internet loves these. And I'm not a huge British dude. I'm very American here in Wisconsin. No, I don't have a eagle and a flag, American flag tattooed on my shoulder, but I am an Eagle Scout. And I do love being in America. But I gotta say, if we are going to spit out guitars like this, I'm just going to have to buy them. I don't care what the theme is. I appreciate beauty when I see it. But it's very cool. I'm not a huge British car guy, but this is how you'd see it. If you had a Jaguar that you were bragging to everybody in the UK about, it would most likely be in this color. You would have a dark metallic green on the outside, and you would have a brown walnut interior, and it's just quintessential British. And I love it. Like I said, I don't give a darn what the theme is. It's just, coincidentally, this is just fan-freaking-tabulous. So, what are the specs? Well, they call it a 50s Les Paul, and it is a standard, because it doesn't have any of the custom binding, like around the headstock or the Les Paul custom inlay in the headstock. Nor does it have like any double binding like some of the white ones will have. Some of the black ones have it too. So this is just your basic Les Paul. But with P-90s, that comes in a limited edition color. But I believe they call it the 50s because of the neck profile. The neck profile on this is comfortable. It's quite comparable to Fender's Modern C. But I'm told by the Gibson gurus that the 60s ones were made thinner than the 50s. So as far as I can tell, or from what I'm told, this is supposed to be like a like a 58, 59 carve neck. I don't really know. Like I said, I'm not a Gibson god. Otherwise, it's kind of all there is to it. So they're just standard USA P-90 pickups, standard USA electronics and hardware, tuners, inlays, yada, yada, yada. This is all kind of just standard Les Paul stuff. The only thing that's special, like I said, is the dark walnut back across the whole shebang. And then the dark green metallic British racing green. Absolutely love it. So like all of them, it does have a 12-inch radius, fretboard, 22 frets. They're all bound with no fret overhang, meaning the binding is technically part of the fret. Comes with a scratch plate. You are able to remove it so long as you're happy dealing with the 2 screw holes that will remain. Yeah, sure, the bottom one wouldn't be visible, but the top one you would see when you're not staring down at it from your lap. But I prefer it with. When it comes to gold tops, I'm a scratch plate dude. When it's all book matched, flame maple, yeah, I can go either way. I love seeing more wood. I'm a huge craftsmanship person. My entire basement is flame and bird's eye maple. Up here it's some sort of cedar, reclaimed cedar or very light oak. And I'm sure I'm rambling, but I love this so much. The pointers on all the vintage knobs, love it. Shiny chromed bridge hardware, I love it. Even the vintage tuners, which I was never a fan of, again, because I only got to have my hands on the crappy Gibsons of 2014 to 18. These ones have a better building tolerance on the inside, and the plastics casted on the outside are far more durable, reliable, and less prone to damage should you ding this into something. What have I had to do to it, and what do I still have to do to it? Well, the only things I've had to do to it so far, it was damn near perfect out of the box. But I gotta say that the nut slots were not deep enough, so I deepened those. They're freaking perfect. I might have the G and the B just the tiniest bit too high, but right now they're really nice. The frets were not yet polished. But in a matter of like 1 hour playing, they're all quite smooth. But when it's time to take the strings off, we will oil up the board and polish up the frets a little bit better than what they aren't. They should look like all those guys when they're done. Versus being like very sad and kind of like a brushed finish. And the fretboard this morning, it doesn't look too dark, but it doesn't look too light, but there are some lighter spots here and there. So we are going to go through, just oil this guy up, wipe off the excess right away, and then it should be good to go for quite a while. When we lowered the nut slots, we had also lowered the bridge a bunch. I think the treble side is coincidentally all the way down to the bottom, as far down as it can go. The bass side, it's still got a wider range of movement if I change out the strings to a different gauge or something. But I believe these are 10s, and they're what I usually put on all my guitars. For the pickups, they required some tweaking. They had the heights kind of all over the place. They wrote down what they were on the inspection card, but I neither liked how they were, and I don't think that they had actually matched what it was on the inspection card. Anywho, once I was happy with a general height volume-wise, I then had to go and adjust all the pole pieces. From the factory, all these pole pieces come perfectly flat. And that's honestly problematic when you have a radiused fretboard, which most of them are. On this guitar, like I said earlier, it's 12 inches, so you want to hopefully have about a 12-inch radius across each of your pole pieces. I might have to raise the A on this neck pickup some, but you should have them radiused. Here you can see that my outer two are just barely sticking out of the cover. My next outer two are sticking out of the cover most of the way, and then the middle two are sticking out of the cover almost completely. I can almost get a fingernail underneath the head of each of those screws. But by doing that, I have equal distance between each pole piece and each of the strings above each of them. So doing that, boy, it really woke the sucker up. Until I did that, this really did not have much mid-range at all. It had quite the mid-scoop out of it. Nothing ridiculous, which you metal guys, I know some of you would love. But clean, it was killer. You were probably missing out on like 2 or 3 up decibels out of these suckers. So by raising them up, we've kind of rounded off their whole palette of frequencies. It's all very well balanced and quite versatile now. So after that, how does it sound? How does it play? Well, all the frets are absolutely perfectly level, and they all have the same exact crown. The fretboard surface itself is, as far as I can tell, perfectly level. I haven't found any warps or kinks or twists, nothing of that nature. All seems absolutely perfect. And as a result, this remains one of my, I'd say in my top 3 playing guitars, this is probably the best. But it is quite comparable with 2 others that I have. Maybe even 3 others. But I am quite fond of it. Even with it being a shorter scale length, strings are nice and tight, and I'm thinking that's got to do with, from the factory, they have the tailpiece bolted down all the way, so you have a pretty steep angle here behind the bridge. And I'm thinking that's making these guys nice and snug, which I like. On a Strat, you having them kind of slinky gives it that signature Stratty sound. But if you make them kind of tight, you start losing that, which is fine. I love them either way. But I didn't want this to sound like a Strat. It's a Les Paul. I wanted something different. That's part of why we got it. I don't have a single P-90 guitar until now. But now we're here, and that's awesome. Yes. Are there any flaws? Well, aside from the not height being tweaked, and me having to adjust the pole pieces, and then the bridge height to taste, and then, like I said, we'll oil up the fingerboard again, and then we'll polish the frets. I think aside from those, it will be perfect. I haven't been able to come across any flaw, except for over in this corner of the fretboard. They didn't fully sand down this little corner here. There's a little step on the top. But you know what? If that's my only complaint, I think this is a guitar worth $2,700. If that is the only flaw, and I can fix that in 2 seconds with just a, and no one would have ever known, I'm gonna say it's a perfect guitar. I have 0 complaints beyond that. One funky thing, I know they do this because of heritage, but there's, or I should say, there doesn't appear to be any kind of shielding inside any of the control cavities. So when I have it plugged into the amp and I rub the sides or the top of the guitar, while it's plugged in, you can hear And then as you get away from the control cavity, it just gets quieter. So that's really weird. Otherwise, I don't have any noises or anything at all from this guy. I'm absolutely blown away. I freaking love this thing. I don't know what else to say about it. If you have a chance of getting to try one of these, definitely do so. Even if it's not the green one, it's mechanically the same as the gold. Just this one has the wood stained and then painted in a different color. It's otherwise identical. A truly fabulous guitar. Oh, I should talk about the case. So with the case, when you buy these, you get brown case. It has Gibson in gold and black on the top. The inside is lined with bright red fluff, whatever you want to call it. But what I can't stand about the case are these gold latches. You can see there of satin gold anodize or galvanize. And in my opinion, they are hideous as all hell. Here on my hinges, it's actually it's kind of like a satin black brass or a satin gold. You can see that with my two gold screws there too. And I think that would have been much better for each of the locks and hinges on this thing versus instead of these, they look like they are casted plastic, plastic casted in the color gold. They look terrible. Otherwise, they're in great shape. Now, when you buy this thing for $2,700, it does get you, well, the guitar obviously. It does get you the case, and inside of the case in the pocket is a set of keys for it. We have our inspection card and some of our guitar serial information. You do get this really nice toolkit. I gotta say, this alone is probably a $40 piece. It's really nice. It'll do everything from truss rod adjustments, to bridge adjustments, to pickup adjustments. It's really nice. I'm very fond of that. You also get a spare truss rod cover. In case you don't want the one that says standard, you can put a plain Jane on there. I thought about putting on the plain Jane one when I was looking at this online, but you know, with how subtle the Les Paul model gold emblem is, I believe silkscreen, I am very happy with the standard one, so I'll be keeping that on there. You do also get, it's a pretty cheap Gibson leather strap, but it is kind of that variety. And I've left that in the case. I'm not putting it on the guitar yet. I will someday soon, but I have to be careful not to store it like that. Storing a black strap on a nitrocellulose guitar can easily stain it. I've seen a bunch that have that. Wherever the strap continually touches the finish, that's where it stains. And you do, the cloth is upside down for when I had a guitar sitting on it. I didn't want the silk screen of Gibson scratching it, but that is a Gibson brand dry wipe cloth. You use that to wipe this guy clean every so often, as I will do. I've only had it a few days, and in that time it had already gotten a little bit of stuff on it here and there, but not a single scratch, and I intend to keep it that way. I haven't, I literally have never scratched a guitar ever. So I got a pretty good record going on. I hope it stays that way, because this is a pretty expensive piece. Sadly, I'm not able to give any sound examples, but like I said, you can look around online for those. There's plenty out there. If you have a chance to play one of these in person, do so. Especially if you can get your hands on one of those Warren Haynes ones. Oh, those are so cool. Like I said, the color's not for me, but mechanically, technically, that's a fabulous instrument. I absolutely love it. those are just superb guitars that everyone should be able to get to try sometime in their life. You shouldn't have to be like me and wait 14 years to be able to try one. It shouldn't have to be like that. That doesn't mean go broke taking out second mortgages to fund this sucker, but you should be able to at least try one. Everyone should have a shot at enjoying something nice in their life. So I'll let you be. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them behind in the comment section. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I love seeing the comments about these. They seem very widely accepted. I haven't met anyone who doesn't like these. Tempted to change out the kind of dark tan switch knob to something actually gold, or silver or something. Or maybe the same cream, I'm not too sure. Something I still got to mill over. But otherwise, I'm freaking loving it just how it is. This is fan-frickin-tastic. I can't say it enough. So kudos to Gibson. I love what you've been doing. And for most of my guitar career, I couldn't say that. But like now it's jaw-dropping. Good stuff like this didn't seem to exist. I know it had to have existed, but not at a high enough presence or population for me to be able to think that, to comprehend that. But it's here. It's awesome. It's freaking awesome. I don't want to say I've been sleeping on the Les Paul all this time, but like it hasn't been the guitar I want to pull off the shelf until recently, and it's not me that's changed. I always wanted to have one and love one. It's only now that I'm able to acquire it and then them being present, them having enough great ones out for me to be able to go and justify getting one because it's not junk. I love having a quality instrument. Always have. I try. I haven't bought and junk stuff in many years. And damn, if every single couple grand guitar is going to be like this, I'll buy more of these. These are fabulous. I still want a gold top. I love this. I think even more than I love the gold top. I still want a gold top, and I might get one in the future. But that's what some of this video is about. Some of it's I just want to share how astonished I am that something that was always so offensively poor or inconsistent had done a 180. And now every single time, as far as I can tell, every single time I've been able to get a hold of one of these, it's exceeded my expectations, and left me wanting more of that product. It's just fabulous. I'm lost for words, and I hope this video is appreciated, not just mocked. Please do understand that great things like this haven't been able to come across my path very often. When they do, I get them. So long as I can. If they're there, they're within budget and within my comfort, I do it. But these just weren't. But now they are. And like, I feel like getting more in celebration for it. And that just it seems so weird to me. So weird to me. But I suppose ought to let you guys be. I really want to play this right now, and a few other guitars sitting behind me, and I just can't wait any longer. So yeah, enjoy your times. I hope there's an, a level of joy and excitement that you can find in some of these that I have, and it's come and gone for me in the past, but I think it's finally here to stay. And I'm going to rejoice that. I'm going to take advantage of that. And you should too.